Good morning and welcome to the Dr. Deborah Show. This is the show where we talk about bringing peace and calm into your life. And later in the show, we're going to be talking about mental health stigma. We're live at KCSB FM Santa Barbara 91.9. KCSB is a platform for cultural expression and thoughtful discussion, providing a diverse educational forum. I'm a Santa Barbara-based clinical psychologist, and I specialize in pediatric neuropsychology. I've seen thousands of people, and my experiences are vast, and I want to share this information with you. I'm a UCSB alumni, and I live locally in Santa Barbara. So this is the show all about our community and how to create compassionate conversations about our well-being and health. So today on the show, we're talking about mental health and well-being with a focus on mindfulness meditation with our very special guest, Dr. Radhule Weininger. Radhule has a long history working as a clinical psychologist and teacher of Buddhist meditation and Buddhist psychology. Radhule is also the founder and guiding teacher of the One Dharma Sangha, as well as the resident teacher of mindfulness practice at the La Casa de Maria Retreat Center in Santa Barbara, California. She's also mentored by Jack Kornfield in her teaching and by Joanna Macy in her interest in Engaged Buddhism. Radhule has a strong interest in the direct experience of the sacred and how this can inspire our service to others. She's recently published a book, Heartwork, The Path of Self-Compassion, with a foreword by Jack Kornfield, and this was published in July of 2017 by Shambhala Publications. Welcome to the show, Dr. Weininger.
Hello.
Today, we're going to be talking about mental health stigma, mental health and mindfulness meditation, and then a little bit about prevention awareness through mindfulness meditation. Why are we talking about this today? Why am I here at 7 a.m. talking about this? We're talking about mental health stigma today because in recent news, did you know that mental health is the largest public health priority and the largest financial burden of any health issue in the world? That's according to the World Health Organization and the World Economic Forum. So it's a big issue. The Centers for Disease Control report called Attitudes Towards Mental Illness found that stigma and embarrassment are two of the top reasons why people with mental illness do not seek help or medication. So issues surrounding mental health affect people from all walks of life. In fact, they just had a beautiful annual magazine for Time, and the whole thing is on mental health. So I'm very excited about that. I just like to start the show just briefly talking about what is mental health, because I think sometimes we have a different idea of what that is or isn't. I think of it as finding a physiological balance, meaning like your thoughts, your heart, your nervous system, everything kind of feels peaceful and balanced. And then it gives us a sense of inner peace, to put it simply. And today, since we're talking about mindfulness and meditation programs, there's been a lot of research recently that's shown mindfulness and meditation-based programs do hold promise for treating a number of psychiatric conditions, including depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, bipolar disorder, and obsessive-compulsive disorder, and I'm sure there's a whole array of other ones. Radhule, I was wondering, how would you describe mental health?
Mental health is, as you said, Deborah, about our inner balance, the balance of our thoughts being calm and clear, alert and clear, and not ruminating and circling and driving us crazy. And it is about our emotions being appropriate, being furthering our relationships and not creating chaos or defeating ourselves.
Yeah.
And it is about being able to attend and not being constantly distracted and or zoned out or sleepy, but being alert and present and not restless.
I think a lot of people think mindfulness, You kind of are in this like sleepy place. But I think I read somewhere, which you just explained beautifully, is the idea of like between an alert, the super alert state and a sleep, like a relaxed state of awareness. Is that
No,
right?
no, it's alert and relaxed.
Right. So like a relaxed state of awareness, is that kind of...
Which is important because usually we are either vegged out, kind of we think relaxation is vegging out on the couch, turning the telly on, or it is about being all on and racing around having fun. And so I personally had to discover this in between, this middle place of being relaxed and alert and present at the same time.
Yes, you've been studying that for many years, so you've cultivated that.
Yeah, but mental health, I would say, also has a lot to do with our relationship to the world. It has to do with a sense of meaning and purpose, and not feeling futile and left out, and feeling positively related. Who said that? Good old Freud. He said it's about love and work, being able to love and be loved, and having meaningful work. And I might add a sense of interconnectedness with the world.
You've traveled a lot, so you've probably seen that in lots of cultures. And I think that's true. We all, just the human condition is we want to be connected to other people. We want to experience the world and be in the world.
Well, not just a wanting, but needing.
Yeah.
I was thinking the first humans probably came from the deserts of inner Africa. I think that's where humankind started, walking around in little tribes. So if you were not part of your tribe, if you were excluded or cast out or vulnerable or sick, you would be eaten by predators in no time. And even though that's not anymore the case,
Right.
I think we are hardwired to be afraid when we are not having a sense of belonging or a sense of connection. And so it doesn't mean we have to kind of become doormats and just fit in no matter what. But I think having meaningful sense of belonging is really vital to us as human beings.
It's like I think of it, I guess, too, as a global community. How we all connect together in our own community here, and then also, as we go out in the world, we're not so disconnected from people, even though they're in Africa or they're in another country. So
that's actually a very interesting one. I think, I don't know if you want to jump there, but we could. Because I think what's happening now in America is a little bit, it's like our little tribal selves want to hover together in our little tribes and go to America first, or, kind of a protectionism. And here's the global community, which we kind of have to grow into. And so there is a little bit of tension in our society. How can we hold both, satisfy our tribal self that can feel easily unrooted and grow into the global self that feels connected in wider and wider circles.
I love that. Yeah, it's kind of like we need to get back to the tribal part of ourselves, but also evolve and change into this newer world we're living in.
And
So it's a
learn
blend.
to hold that tension, especially now where we all have to hold together on behalf of our environment.
I love that you're bringing that up as well. And one thing I know I talk to my patients and just, clinicians about too, like you're talking about, is really psychology. A lot of the basis of psychology is holding the tension of the opposites. So I think, if you think of being happy and sad, or, joyous and miserable, I mean, just remember that you're going to feel the full spectrum, and it's okay. Actually, that's what I think makes life really beautiful. It's just, to be not fearful of that, I think, and explore that versus becoming afraid of, something we're not used to.
And maybe working with our fear.
Exactly. Well, and I think what you were saying about the primal part like that we would be eaten by if we were in a tribe and we didn't do, I think you were saying like what the tribe kind of how, if we weren't part of the tribe.
If we were for some reason cast out or left out or vulnerable.
Right, then you would get eaten, which is, obviously that's the end of your life. So I think that inherently we do have this, very basic need to feel connected. And I think that's why talking about mental health stigma too is really important, because I feel like stigma really makes a wall.
Exactly. Yeah.
And, I think I just like to talk a little bit about, thanks for sharing that, about just what is mental health stigma, because I think we toss around words and sometimes people don't know. So I just have a couple definitions. I won't make it too long, but there's kind of two types that I broke it down into, which is social stigma and self-stigma. And social stigma is when we have attitudes and discriminating behavior that are directed toward individuals with mental health problems. And as a result of maybe they get given a psychiatric label. The other idea that I bring up is the idea of self-stigma, which is the internalizing by the mental health sufferer of their perceptions of discrimination. And I think that's very common, too, as we start to really believe certain ideas about ourselves, and that we really become kind of like beating up ourselves for those already hard things. And stigma can significantly affect feelings of shame and lead to poorer treatment outcomes.
Right. Can I add something to that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, first, I think it really speaks to our little savannah baby self, like being these little creatures in Africa being left out. And again, the mental health stigma can feel us like being outside of the tribe. So I think that very much fits into that. And I really liked what you said about the self-stigma, because the most painful alienation is really the one we have towards ourselves.
We kind of beat up ourselves.
And maybe to come back to mindfulness, which is, according to John Kabat-Zinn, moment by moment, non-judgmental attention. It gives us a methodology to, with kindness and respect and self-acceptance, look inward and see what is. But according to the Buddha, suffering came up through grasping, clinging, and pushing away, like OCD, our thoughts, ruminating, getting stuck in this.
Ruminating is kind of when you keep thinking and thinking and thinking about
circular
the same thing.
thinking.
Yeah, circular. I think, even Freud, he had that right, too, because he talked about the repetition compulsion. So repeat. But
and get stuck in that.
And I love the mindfulness, and I'm so appreciative of my work I did with Radeleigh, because what you're talking about is like taking these pauses, right?
Right. And then, but I think mindfulness, which helps us to find an inner refuge in our body, with our breath. And with this inner sense of refuge and security, in a way, we have the tools to look at ourselves without judgment and to see what's going on and to work toward a better future. But it has to be paired with compassion. I think Jack Kornfield is it who says that we need mindfulness and compassion both, because it's like the two wings that allow the bird to fly. So compassion usually starts with self-compassion, as I say in my book, Heartwork, The Path of Self-Compassion, and which is to heal that sense of rift or alienation we experience towards ourselves and come to this great sense of self-acceptance, which is not condoning, which is not whitewashing, but it's being kind of an I-thou, a respectful seeing of ourselves and working with ourselves, which is actually a very courageous and loving way to do. So I wanted to say that I feel that we always have to pair mindfulness with compassion, especially self-compassion.
Yeah, I was doing some reading and I saw that, compassion is really, even biologically, within us. It runs supposedly from our brainstem to our lungs, to our heart, to our gut. So we have that built into us. But I do think we've kind of forgotten some of that. And also, I love the idea of like learning to have a conversation with yourself because, like what you're saying is really learning to kind of make friends with yourself.
Right.
And self-acceptance. And I think, what makes the world beautiful is we're all different. I mean, we don't have to be constantly comparing ourselves and thinking I need to do what that person's doing. I mean, if you have your own set of goals, that's healthy. But I think, enjoy yourself too. And if you can sink into that, I mean, that's the best gift you can give yourself, I think. So I think, we need to take care of our mental health by being able to discuss those emotions and thoughts and feelings that are within ourselves. I'm going to take just a minute break, and I'm going to play a piece of music by Scott Holmes. It's called Hopeful Journey, and then we'll be right back to talk more about mental health and mindfulness meditation. Hi, this is the Dr. Deborah Show. Good morning. We're live at KCSB Santa Barbara FM. KCSB FM Santa Barbara 91.9. This is the Dr. Deborah Show. We're talking about bringing peace and calm into your life. I'm a clinical psychologist with a specialty in neuropsychology. I'm also a UCSB alumni, and I live locally in Santa Barbara. This is the show all about our community and how to create compassionate conversations about our well-being and health. And we're here today talking about mental health and mindfulness meditation, one of my favorite topics. I'm very excited to announce again our special guest, Dr. Radeleigh Weininger. Welcome to the show again, Radeleigh.
Hello.
Oops, I didn't turn your mic on. Okay, welcome to the show, Radeleigh.
Hello.
There we are. You're back. Okay. Radeleigh actually has her medical degree and her Ph.D. She's the founder and guiding teacher of the One Dharma Sangha. And she recently published a book, Heartwork, The Path of Self-Compassion. She has a private practice here in Santa Barbara, and she has ongoing mindfulness meditation groups, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute, with Radeleigh. And she has spearheaded with her husband, Michael Kearney, MD, did I pronounce his name right, Kearney? The Solidarity and Compassion Project, whose vision is to nourish and sustain with an attitude of integrity and caring. I love that. Radeleigh, I know we were talking on the break just about your mindfulness meditation groups, which I always recommend to people because you do have multiple. I know you have multiple groups that happen, but if you're at UCSB, if you're a student or staff or faculty, Radeleigh does have a group Monday nights at St. Michael's University Church, and you said it's at 7 p.m. on Casa Lane, and I would highly recommend it. I did go to Radeleigh's group for many years because I actually worked for Radeleigh. I got the blessing of working with Radeleigh and really do believe in mindfulness meditation. I think that it's kind of the key in a way to stress reduction. Radeleigh, do you want to share anything about the mindfulness meditation group and how that looks, or just so people can kind of have an idea? And also maybe if your other group, I don't know if you're doing that at the museum as well.
Yeah. So Monday nights at 7, we meet at St. Michael's University Church for about an hour and a quarter. And then Tuesdays at the Museum of Natural History at 6 at the McVeigh House. And Thursdays in Summerlin at the Sacred Space, as La Casa de Maria is being rebuilt right now after the mudslide. And usually in these groups, what we do in Monday group, there are a lot of students coming. Some people from the community, but it's mainly undergrads, graduate, postdocs, researchers coming, and we start with a little instructional talk so that learn a little bit each time you come. And then we do about a 20-25 minute guided mindfulness meditation. We realize that carefully guiding meditations, as I will show you in a moment, actually helps to really learn how to do it and to focus and not just engage in mind wandering. And then we'll have like a 10-minute compassion, self-compassion, compassion for others meditation, because I feel that as an individual person and as a society, we need to strengthen our metaphorical heart muscles and develop both of it together. And then especially in the Monday group, often almost all people, some people like to leave, but most people stay and we have a discussion. People have questions, comments, and I would say the Monday group is the most curious and thoughtful and chatty group, and we sit there for a while, and it's actually a wonderful little community.
That's lovely. Speaking of curiosity, I just think that's a great approach to it. You know, if there's something you fear, try to come from curiosity, because I mean, then maybe something new will come around.
Maybe I wanted to say these groups are all free of charge.
Yes, that is true.
And you can just pop in. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to commit. Yeah, you come back if you like it, so to speak.
Yeah, and you know, you don't have to wear anything special. You take your shoes off. If your feet get cold, you can wear socks.
You can sit on there's pillows,
lay down.
And chairs.
And chairs, so it's very welcoming. I would highly encourage you to at least experience it or try it out. It really is an amazing gift to yourself. And I think it's something that you could take throughout your life, wherever you are in your life, to help you with stress reduction. And I think that can help you to feel a little more balanced. Radeleigh and I were talking on the break about doing a little mini meditation. And so she has brought in her singing bowl. And actually, as I was talking to Lisa, the radio director here, we were talking before the show just about with the rain and that it's the 1 year anniversary of the Thomas Fire and coming up and the mudslides and what's on people's minds. I think it's been such a rough year for Santa Barbara and Montecito. So maybe this little gift that Radeleigh will give you will help you to be more in touch with yourself and others. It's a beautiful... is that considered an instrument, the singing bowl, or is that, what do you call that? The singing bowl that Radeleigh is going to play. I was asking her if it's an instrument or not.
I don't know.
But it's really cool. So I hope you enjoy this. We're going to try this out and see if... I have to move that closer, but we'll just listen to Radeleigh for a couple minutes, and I'm going to give her the show here.
Maybe first I wanted to say that... last night, when it was raining quite heavily in Mission Canyon, where I live, I had a lot of memories of last year and the mudslide and the fire, and I think this is on all of our minds, and it's a good tool to learn to just basically be present what is within ourselves. Whether it's a sense of anxiety or resistance or wanting to run away, and just be there with it and actually find a sense of safety inside of ourselves. Let yourself settle into the sensations in your body. Notice the touch between your body and the chair, the ground. And notice what it feels like inside of yourself. Allow your face to relax, your jaw to drop, your shoulders to let go, your belly to soften, and allow your whole body to be filled with presence, with spaciousness, and a sense of knowing. And notice the sensation and movement of your natural breath, arising with the inhale, letting go with the exhale. Expanding with the inhale, with the exhale, letting go, letting go, letting go, until the next breath brushes in naturally. Feeling the felt sense of your breath. And when there are thoughts, feelings, comments, worries, just notice them arising, being there, fading away. Just passing by, like a leaf on a river going downstreams. Always returning to your touchstone, refuge, the sensation and movement of your natural breath. Breath expanding with the inhale, letting go with the exhale. Allowing your body to be breathed. For breath to breathe you.
That was lovely, Radeleigh. Thank you for letting us experience your mindfulness meditation. I think if you did actually get to do the whole piece there, I know I feel much more relaxed. It is amazing how just pausing, and I love the singing bowl because it kind of just lets everything go too. But and you have such a nice melodic voice. That's very nice to listen to. So, like Radeleigh mentioned, the groups that she has, I think you can also find them on her website.
It's Radeleigh Weininger, Ph.D.com and mindfulheartprograms.org.
And so does that have a list of all the groups and things?
Yeah, it has a calendar.
Okay, because I know I always give people your information for that. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, I know I did do a little research just to see what was in the news lately about mental health and mindfulness meditation. Research that in recent years has actually shown that mindfulness has migrated from spiritual retreat centers to medical facilities.
Mm-hmm.
And now the National Institute of Mental Health, NIMH, the largest scientific organization in the world dedicated to research on the understanding and treatment of mental illness and mental health issues, is getting serious about investigating mindfulness as a complementary treatment for a range of mental health conditions.
Well, it's interesting when I talk now to insurance companies and I say I teach mindfulness meditations, they actually think I'm within the standard of practice. But it's quite interesting when I started at I was probably your age. I was age 22 in Germany, being a student, very stressed out. And And that's when I started, in a monastery in Sri Lanka. And when I came home, my family and my co-medical students really thought I had gone off the deep end with mindfulness meditation.
Well, you really had to listen and trust yourself to do that.
And so it's wonderful to hear that 38 years later, it's actually standard of care. Mm-hmm. So it's a wonderful transformation, and I think it's an important balance to our what's happening in our society, which is very much a multitasking, ADD, distracted society. And so I think something deep inside ourselves knows intuitively that we do need this balance.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it sounds like you listen to your intuition. And I think, people think of intuition as more metaphysical, but it actually is a neurological function that's very important and kind of ties together a lot of different things that we need to feel healthy. And I love the idea of following something if you believe in it, like what you said when you left and you went to Sri Lanka, and then your co-medical students thought, oh my gosh, what's going on with her? But you listened to yourself and and you cultivated something that you really believed in, and actually it's come to fruition. So just if you have something you believe in, don't give up.
And actually it's quite interesting because I know lots of people who listen this morning are students. I was a medical student then at age 22, and I think I'm probably borderline ADD myself, and it was always very hard for me to sit down and read these 600-page books or whatever they were. Mm-hmm. And I just know after a few months in this monastery and really studying mindfulness, I was able to concentrate. I didn't run out the room all the time and come back to my book. There was less fight in me, and I was actually having a lot more fun studying what I was studying because I was able to focus and be present and remember a lot better. And there's quite a bit of research about that.
I agree. I mean, even when I was taking my board exams, which I really struggled with, those are really hard. I basically learned at the very end, which I wish I had learned even more at the beginning, to actually amplify my meditation. And in between each question, I just, I'd move my wrists, my kind of ankles, just twirl them around, and then maybe look side to side. And then I would do just even a breath and a positive self-statement. So it doesn't have to be, Radeleigh's, so wonderful at leading the meditation. But I always try to encourage people, even if you just pause for 10 seconds throughout your day, it can give you some relief, which is what I think we need. And to create that space that you're always talking about, just so we can let some of the bitter things kind of go, even for just a moment, so we can just have some sense of inner peace.
And we can bring mindfulness into also into times when we feel stressed during our days. There's something that I call the mindful pause, which I developed.
Right.
Like, let's say you might be triggered during the day. You read that maybe your grade hasn't been as good, or your parents might be difficult, or there's something coming up with a roommate or somebody in your environment. And let's say you feel triggered. You can do just a little practice. Let's go to get a cup of tea, or go to the restroom, or just take this 2-minute break. And you might even try it out right now. Think just about something that may have triggered you in the last few days. Maybe not the worst thing, maybe a smaller trigger. And then notice your body for a moment. Just notice what it feels like. Choose to pause.
I think pausing is very hard, actually, for people. Just even, just to stop I kind of think of it like an old wagon wheel going round and round and round and round.
But you can make a choice. And then exhale to relax. Allow yourself to recognize that you're hurting.
Radeleigh's reading. She has these little. Do you give those out to your patients too?
Sometimes.
Yeah, she has this cool box of cards that have different, just kind of challenging things that we encounter in our days. So I think that it's true. If you can maybe take out a little card like that, it does help to kind of have something to read.
People have them as their screensaver or...
Well, I was going to ask about your do you still have your mindful pause place that's on the internet where people, but can...
Yeah.
What is that website? Is that on your website or is that?
I think it's on my Radeleigh Weininger Ph.D.com.
But if you enter mindful pause, I think you can enter Radeleigh's name. It's actually really cool and it's very simple. And I think it can actually just get your mind and your being just kind of moving in that direction. So,
especially when you feel triggered and your reactivity's careering down the tracks.
I love your idea about the waves in the ocean. I don't know if you want to just briefly talk about, kind of like how you meet the waves as they kind of come.
Yeah, and to be able to ground yourself in that moment in your body, in the felt sense, because that's really how we come to the present moment.
Do you, I was just wondering, if we go back just for a moment to mental health stigma, because I feel like if we go back to the self-stigma, right, that's kind of part of what we're talking about too. And, I'm just on this kind of mission to really reduce mental health stigma because I'm hoping we can really create these compassionate conversations.
Because that makes us feel like outsiders.
Right, like you're talking about
vulnerable.
the tribe.
The tribe, right.
Yeah, I love the tribal idea. It's true.
The savannah babies.
Is that, how do you spell savannah? Is that like S-A-V?
I made that up.
You did? Okay. What does that mean, savannah?
Savannah is the big desert in the middle of Africa.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I love that. Yeah, there's a great...
so when you were a little child in the savannas and you lost your parents...
Gotcha.
You were just really kind of up the creek. And so that's why I was thinking we all have our little savannah babies inside of ourselves.
Right. I think from the
afraid of being left out.
We're children, right? We notice the differences in others. We're taught to look at the world from the lens of our upbringing and the life experiences that shape us. I also think I like to educate people that I think we're all wired a little differently, like a thermostat that regulates our temperature. So, not everybody, we all can respond and use the mindfulness, meditation, and other things to help us cope. But, just remember that we're all different. So your level might be different from other people's because of the way your brain is, or your nervous system or your thoughts. And some people are able to overcome challenges easier than others. And others continue to struggle throughout their lives. I was wondering, I know you talked about being in the medical field, being in medical school and then being a physician and being a psychologist. I was curious what your work in the medical field, if you remember, like what the attitudes were toward mental health, like, because you even just shared how when you got back taking care of your mental health, at a time when you were obviously very successful doing your medical school.
Well, even then I was actually quite, I was quite challenged then. I have to admit, I really struggled with medical school because I wasn't a natural scientist. And I came from this family of doctors who basically were very pushy and demanding. And so I don't think I was quite a happy camper then in medical school. I think that's why I got sick.
Yeah.
And I ended up in Sri Lanka and in the monastery. And I do remember the attitudes were very dismissive and condescending towards psychological problems.
How do you think that could change? I do think that's very common, actually. Like, I was at a board meeting last night I'm part of HopeNet, which is a suicide prevention awareness group. And we were talking about that, just where does all this start and how can we help? And one of the things we were talking about is, when you go to a doctor, depending on what age you're at, a lot of times people are dismissive or they want to give you a pill. And I was just curious, like what you think we could be doing. I know it's a big question, differently maybe to educate everybody. So we include all professions, especially the people who are really, involved with a large quantity of people, are very influential.
Well, yes, and I think medical doctors specifically and nurses and and people in the medical field are often hard to reach because their own training is so stressful that they don't learn to pause. But I think it is seeping in now that, and those people realize they themselves get burned out and they're too stressed. And so I think it's really important through literature, through research, through talks, to educate them about mindfulness and compassion and mental illness. And when I go, for example, to this retreat center up in San Francisco, quite regularly, there are a lot of young residents from UCSF, from the University, California, and San Francisco. So I can see that in the big cities, it's kind of having a foothold. But I think there is a lot of education.
Right.
I think that's what it is. And really what you are doing here, Deborah, to educate people who later will be, maybe in the health field or will be the leaders of tomorrow. And hopefully if they listen to our show, that kind of can sow a little seed of insight.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, thank you for doing what you're doing, Deborah. I think it's really quite wonderful.
Thank you. And I mean, it's my pleasure. I'm hoping that I always try to envision the world in a more beautiful way. There's a really beautiful Deepak Chopra children's book. It's all illustrated, but I think it's called On Your Way, something like that. I should learn the exact title, but it's just a beautiful illustration of maybe how our world could look, just doing kind of the things we enjoy and listening more to ourselves and getting back to kind of our tribal roots, the basic things that we need as humans. I know Radeleigh has a busy day ahead of her with her private practice, and so she only has a couple more minutes with us, and I am going to be talking after she goes about prevention. I wanted to know maybe one more question, if you're open for it, of Radeleigh, how do you think that mindfulness meditation, how do you think we can put more of that into our lives? And I know you've given some wonderful tidbits, just to summarize that maybe for people who are jumping in, or just to put that more simply.
I think there are a few different ways. There are now a number of wonderful apps on the phone. I like especially 10% Happier. And my kids who are in their early 20s, they love Headspace. It's a young English guy who teaches that. So Headspace and 10% Happier are good apps. But it's hard to learn mindfulness just from an app.
Right.
So it would be good to maybe come once a week to a group like, I told you the Mondays at 7 at St. Michael's, Tuesdays at the Museum of Natural History at 6, and Thursdays in Summerland at the Sacred Space at 6, or other groups in town. Actually, I was teaching the last 2 years the stuff of the Student Wellness Center here. I gave a training for 2 years, and they are teaching now mindfulness all over campus.
I see the posters.
Yeah, and I think the one person who's organizing is one of my students, Emily Teeter, who is a wonderful, you might get her in sometimes, who is a wonderful budding mindfulness teacher. So I think they have 6 or 7 groups every week all over campus. Nice. So, and you can just pop in there. And so that would be a great way. And then, you can do a bit of reading. I really like A Path with Heart with Jack Kornfield, my book, Heartwork, The Path of Self-Compassion. Then there is Pema Children's How to Meditate. There are a number of really wonderful books that you, or audiobooks.
There's also videos.
Or videos that you can, but it's quite helpful to have a little group to go to. and Sangha, as we say. So I
Sangha is
think,
like a group of people, right? And
yeah, it's a group of people who support each other. So those are a few ways. And, I think bringing mindfulness into your daily life, there is the more formal practice. Maybe you start with 10 minutes in the morning or in the evening, and then maybe build up to 20 minutes. But then there are also the mindful pauses, which you can use when you're triggered during your day. And then there's what I call intermittent respites. Let's say you're walking from your home or your bike to classroom, or from your car to the auditorium or the library, and to walk very mindfully. You can be mindful as you walk, as you eat, which actually helps a lot with being conscious of one's eating habits, or to stop for a moment and to look into a tree and to just listen to the birds and see how the wind moves in the tree. So we can build in these little intermittent respites into our days. And I can tell you more Monday night, so you can read more about it in Heartwork.
And I would highly encourage you to try out Radeleigh's Monday night or another group. It's free. It's very low key, and it gives you a good, I think, a healthy tape recorder kind of to change in your mind. And then you get to experience it in your body too. And I mean, I even just tell my patients to just take a breath. I think sometimes we just forget to breathe, and then we can notice the birds, and also just maybe like Radeleigh saying, walking to class, if you just slow that down a little bit to notice your foot as it moves, your heel goes down to the tip of your toe. Even if it's just for a moment, just try something new out.
Or let's say a few breaths before you send a text.
Right.
Or a few breaths and just feeling your body in the chair before you send an email.
Taking some pause.
Yeah. Or let's say before you put the key into the car or start the car. Or,
Be simple. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think having like little intermittent respites is really important.
It is. Okay. We have really enjoyed having Dr. Radeleigh Weininger on the show. I'm sure we could continue on, and I have so many other questions that we didn't get to, but that's okay. I'm hoping that everybody that was listening really got some good, some tools, so to speak, for how to approach maybe mindfulness. I'd highly encourage you to try that out and check out Radeleigh's website. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Radeleigh.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And we're going to take a momentary break. I'm going to play Scott Holmes' Think Big, and I'll be right back to talk briefly about prevention and awareness. Hi, welcome to the Dr. Deborah Show. This is the show where we are talking about bringing peace and calm into your life. We're live at KCSB FM Santa Barbara 91.9. We've had a wonderful time talking with Dr. Radeleigh Weininger about her experiences with mindfulness meditation and medical school and traveling and some of the groups that she also has here locally. So I hope you'll try some of those out. I just wanted to briefly just talk about prevention and awareness. I think that we kind of covered some ways that you can apply mindfulness meditation, but I thought I would just talk about what's in the news today for 1 minute, because I think, that doctors are often prescribing kind of meditation now as a practice for better health and wellness. And it can, like Radeleigh was saying, it can be kind of viewed as an antidote to our flight or fight response, living more in fear. And UCSF has been coming out with some great studies, and there's a physician there, Dr. Cheng, and she says when you meditate in general, the breath slows down, the heart rate slows down, the blood pressure decreases, stress decreases, digestive function improves, and the sense of tension in the body decreases. And she's also noticed that some of her patients who meditate are able to reduce their medications and antidepressants as their blood pressure, stress, and depression decrease. She also observed that they experience greater well-being, increased peace, and a quality of life. People have more increasing gratitude. So just to kind of wrap up, I think we can work together to help create a supportive environment that can empower and care for the individual. Some ways we can work together are volunteering, checking in with ourselves, learning about other cultures, getting accurate information from accurate, reliable sources, not random scientific studies. I think this leads us to an understanding and including, like Radeleigh was saying, like a feeling of being a part of a tribe and a caring. But could you imagine a world where we can share our feelings and our thoughts more freely? There's not a person I have seen in my practice of thousands and thousands of people that I have not met one person who said, oh, I wish we could just all talk and share this. Where we can move toward health for all human beings. And there's a lot of work to be done because only 60% of the people needing mental health treatment receive it. And I would guess that number's actually lower. So if we each do our part toward ending negative perceptions about mental health, and we raise awareness, we can live in a more loving, safe, and accepting world. If you have questions, please write to me on my Facebook page, Dr. Deborah. It's called the Dr. Deborah Show. I want to put a quick shout out to HopeNet of Carpinteria. HopeNet of Carpinteria serves our community to work toward prevention awareness regarding suicide and mental health issues. If you or someone you know needs help, call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. Their number is 1-800-273-8255. You can also call locally, our Santa Barbara Access Line. Their number is 1-888-868-1649. And come join us next week. We will be having the mayor of Carpinteria on our show talking about mental health. So I think that it's been a wonderful show, and I'm looking forward to getting to, share that other information with you. And we're going to put on the next show, which is called Democracy Now! And Democracy Now! Is about news and updates, and then there'll be the Sprouts Show. So live at KCSB FM. Let's see, make sure I'm saying it all right. We're live here at KCSB FM 91.9. So I'm going to start this.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
You're going to play a song.
Oh, I'm going to play a song.
That's fine. Oh, my God.
You know what? I'm stuck, actually. I can't get back to where...
Oh, shoot. Now you went away. I can't hear you.
I'm stuck here. I'm trying to get back to...
Play a spot.
I'm trying to. Okay.
Okay, play anything. Play
I can't get back to it. I'm trying to. Okay. If you're listening to us, I'm obviously having some technical difficulties because I'm not very technically savvy. Okay, here we go.